The laughter cut through the saloon like broken glass, sharp and cruel. Every eye in Murphy's Hole turned to watch as Sarah Montgomery stumbled toward the batwing doors, her threadbare dress hanging loose on her thin frame, mud caked on boots that had walked too many miles. The men at the poker table snickered behind their cards. A woman in silk and rouge pointed from the staircase, whispering poison to her painted friends. "Look what the wind blew in," called out Jake Morrison, the town's self-appointed king. "Beggar girl thinks she can drink with decent folk." Sarah's cheeks burned, but she kept walking. She'd come for information, nothing more. Word was her brother had passed through here 3 days ago, wounded and running. But pride was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. Not after losing the farm. Not after watching Ma waste away while creditors circled like vultures. The doors swung shut behind her with a hollow thud. The desert night wrapped around her like a familiar embrace, cold and unforgiving. She pulled her shawl tight and started down the wooden steps, each creak echoing her humiliation. "Miss," the voice stopped her mid-step, deep, careful, like a man choosing his words. She turned to see a figure leaning against the hitching post, tall, wearing a weathered coat that had seen better days but still held dignity in its lines. His hat shadowed his face, but she caught the glint of watchful eyes. "They got no right treating you that way." Sarah straightened, lifting her chin despite everything. "I can handle myself, mister." "Never said you couldn't." He pushed off from the post, moving with the easy grace of a man comfortable in dangerous places. "But handling yourself and accepting help ain't mutually exclusive." Before she could protest, he shrugged out of his coat and stepped forward. The leather was warm, carrying the scent of sage and honest work. As he draped it over her shoulders, their eyes met for a heartbeat. His were gray as storm clouds, holding something she hadn't seen in too long. Respect. Inside the saloon, the laughter had died. Through the window, faces pressed against glass, watching this unexpected scene unfold. The stranger's simple gesture had shifted something in the air, turned the night dangerous in ways Sarah couldn't yet understand. "Name's Cole," he said, settling the coat more securely around her shoulders. "Cole Brennan." Sarah had heard that name before. Whispers in towns she'd passed through, stories that painted him as everything from a saint to a devil, depending on who was telling. What they all agreed on was that Cole Brennan was a man who drew trouble like lightning draws iron. "I know who you are." She should return the coat, walk away, disappear into the night like she'd planned. Instead, she found herself standing there, wrapped in his warmth. "Sarah Montgomery, and I appreciate the gesture, but you think associating with me will make things worse for you?" Cole's mouth curved in something that might have been a smile. "Smart woman. Problem is they already marked you as different. Coat don't change that." Through the saloon windows she could see Jake Morrison pushing back from his chair, his face twisted with something uglier than simple mockery. 3 of his men were rising too, hands drifting toward gun belts in that casual way that meant serious intent. "Your brother," Cole said quietly. "Tommy Montgomery. He came through here asking questions about the same man you're looking for." Sarah's breath caught. "You knew Tommy, knew he was in trouble. Same kind you're walking into if you stay in this town past sunrise." The batwing doors crashed open. Jake Morrison stepped out, flanked by his men, their boots heavy on the wooden planks. The night air crackled with tension, the kind that came right before storms or gunfights. Well, Jake drawled, his voice carrying the satisfied tone of a cat cornering a mouse. "Looks like the beggar girl found herself a protector. Cole Brennan, isn't it? Heard you been asking questions too." Cole's hand rested easy on his gun butt. No threat in the gesture, but no fear either. "Evening, Morrison. Just being neighborly." "Neighborly?" Jake spat into the dust. "That what they call it now? Man takes up with trash. What's that make him?" Sarah felt Cole tense beside her, felt the shift in the air that meant violence was coming whether she wanted it or not. In the space of a heartbeat she had to choose, run and leave this stranger to face consequences meant for her, or stand and accept whatever came next. The sound of more boots echoed from inside the saloon. More men, more guns, more reasons why helping her had been a mistake. "Let me handle this," Sarah whispered, but Cole was already stepping forward, placing himself between her and Morrison's men. Tommy Montgomery was looking for Red Jake Sullivan, Cole said, his voice carrying clear across the dusty street. Same as his sister here. Seems Sullivan's been spreading word that he's got unfinished business with the Montgomery family. Sarah's blood went cold. Red Jake Sullivan, the man who'd burned their farm, killed their father, and left them with nothing but debts and sorrow. If Tommy had found him, if he'd tried to settle the score alone. Sullivan ain't here, Morrison sneered. But word travels fast in small towns. Word about bounties. Word about rewards for information leading to certain troublemakers. More men emerged from the saloon, forming a loose semicircle in the street. Sarah counted 8, maybe 9 guns against Cole's 1. The odds were impossible, but Cole stood easy, like he faced down crowds every Tuesday. Funny thing about bounties, Cole replied. Sometimes they work both ways. Take Red Jake for instance. Territory's got paper on him worth more than most folks see in a lifetime. Course a man would have to be alive to collect. The words hit Morrison like a physical blow. His hand dropped to his gun, and Sarah saw the moment everything went sideways. But instead of drawing, Morrison smiled, cold and calculating. Maybe so, but tonight ain't about Sullivan. Tonight's about you harboring a known associate of a wanted man. That makes you complicit, Brennan. That makes both of you fair game. The metallic click of hammers being pulled back echoed through the night. Sarah pressed closer to Cole, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing, the coiled strength in his frame. Around them the town held its breath. Then came the sound that changed everything. Hoofbeats, approaching fast from the north road. Not one horse, but several, their riders pushing hard through the darkness. Morrison's confidence faltered as the sound grew closer. Expecting company, Jake. Cole's voice carried a note of dark amusement. In the distance Sarah caught sight of torches, maybe 6 riders, their faces hidden but their intent clear in the way they rode straight toward the saloon. Morrison stepped back, his men glancing nervously at each other. The hoofbeats stopped. Silence stretched like a held breath before a voice called out from the darkness, gravely familiar, carrying the weight of old violence. Jake Morrison, been looking for you. Red Jake Sullivan stepped into the lamplight like a nightmare given flesh. Tall and lean, with scars that mapped a lifetime of violence across his weathered face, he moved with the predatory grace of a man who'd survived by being faster and meaner than everyone else. His pale eyes swept the scene, taking in Morrison's men, Cole's protective stance, and finally settling on Sarah. Well, I'll be damned, Sullivan drawled. Little Sarah Montgomery, all grown up and pretty as her mama was. Sarah's hand found the locket at her throat, her mother's last gift, worn smooth by years of worry and hope. You killed my father. I did. No shame in his voice, no regret. Man shouldn't have tried to be a hero over a piece of worthless dirt. Cole's gun was in his hand now, though Sarah hadn't seen him draw. The movement had been fluid as water, natural as breathing. Sullivan, been wondering when you'd show your face, Brennan. Sullivan's smile was all teeth and malice. Heard you been playing protector to strays. That's not like you. People change, do they? Sullivan's gaze shifted back to Sarah, and something in his expression shifted too, not softer, but more personal. Your brother thought the same thing, right up until he didn't. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. What did you do to Tommy? For a moment something almost human flickered across Sullivan's face. He reached into his vest and pulled out a familiar object. Tommy's compass, the one their father had given him before he died. The brass was dented now, stained with something dark. Boy had sand, I'll give him that. Tracked me for 3 weeks, got closer than anyone has in years. But sand ain't enough, girl, not against experience. Sarah stepped forward, Cole's coat sliding from her shoulders. Is he dead? Sullivan weighed the compass in his palm, and for a heartbeat, Sarah saw something she hadn't expected. Weariness, not regret exactly, but the bone-deep exhaustion of a man who'd been running too long, killing too long, surviving too long. Your brother asked me the same question about your PA before he tried to put a bullet in my back. Sullivan tossed the compass to Sarah, who caught it with trembling hands. Some debts don't die with the debtor, girl. They just pass down the line. Behind them, Morrison's men were backing away, sensing the shift in the wind. This wasn't their fight anymore, and smart men knew when to fade into shadows. Cole stepped closer to Sarah, his presence solid and reassuring. Debts with me now, Sullivan. Girls under my protection. Your protection. Sullivan's laugh was dry as desert wind. That means something these days. The night hung balanced on the edge of violence, but something else too, the possibility of an ending, one way or another. It means everything, Cole said quietly. Always has. The words carried weight beyond their sound, speaking to some shared history between the two men. Sullivan's expression changed, hardening into something final and inevitable. Then you know how this ends, Cole. I do. Sarah looked between them, seeing the understanding pass like a signal. This wasn't just about her, or Tommy, or even her father. This was older, deeper, the kind of debt that could only be paid one way. No, she said, stepping between them. This is my family's blood, my fight. Sullivan's pale eyes studied her with something approaching respect. Girl's got steel, I'll give her that. But steel ain't enough against you. Sarah's voice carried steady, despite the fear crawling up her spine. Maybe not, but I'm not alone anymore. She felt Cole move beside her, not stepping away but shifting into position. Around them the town watched from windows and doorways, witnesses to whatever came next. Sullivan's hand hovered over his gun, but he didn't draw. Instead he looked at Sarah, really looked at her, and something in his face shifted again. You look like her, he said finally. Your mama. She had the same fire in her eyes when she told me she'd rather die than marry a killer. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Sarah felt the compass, warm in her palm, and understood suddenly that some stories had more than one side. She chose my father instead, Sarah said. She did. Good man, your PA. Wrong place, wrong time, but good. Sullivan's hand moved away from his gun. Maybe some debts get paid in ways we don't expect. He turned to walk away, then stopped. Your brother's alive, wounded but alive. Town called Cedar Creek, Doc's place above the general store. He's waiting for you. The revelation hit Sarah like a physical force. Tommy's alive, alive and stubborn as his sister. Sullivan mounted his horse, his men following suit. Take care of that compass, girl. Your PA would have wanted his children to have something to remember him by besides scars. As the riders disappeared into the darkness, Sarah found herself alone with Cole under the vast desert sky. The town was already returning to its normal rhythms. The excitement over, the story begun. Why? She asked. Why help me? Cole retrieved his coat from the dust, shaking it out with careful movements. Sometimes a man gets tired of being who he was. Sometimes he needs a reason to be better. He offered the coat again, and this time Sarah took it gladly, wrapping herself in its warmth and the promise it represented. Years later, when Sarah Montgomery Brennan would tell the story to her children, she'd always end it the same way, with the image of a man stepping out of shadows, offering his coat to a stranger, and in doing so, offering them both a chance to write a different ending than the one fate had planned. The compass still sat on their mantelpiece, next to Tommy's letters and Cole's old gun belt, reminders of the night when kindness proved stronger than vengeance, and love conquered the debts of the past.